all of this backstory. And today, I think is going to be a good day of writing. We are going to enter the dojo of Mizuki Matsumoto. So looking forward to this. Quick recap here. We've got these two sisters, Yakuza captain sisters, and they are about to go to war against each other. And our protagonist, he's caught in the middle. He's already met one sister, and that one sister, the elder sister, has recruited him for killing her younger sister, right? It's all a backstory of jealousy and father's love gone wrong. So we are about to meet the twin sister, and I think this is going to all happen in some kind of a dojo. So what I'm thinking is, if any of you, this is all my sort of Japanese anime, my love for Japanese anime is going to probably come out right now. So, okay, let's bring up where we were yesterday. Okay, so Sharp, that's our main character. Sharp meets Mizuki. We're in the dojo setting. So I think let's just immediately get into this, and let's just start. Let's write this like a screenplay, and then we can turn it into a novel. So I was speaking about this a few days ago with someone. We were saying how basically the difference between a screenplay and a novel is simply, in a novel, you get to go behind the thoughts of a character, and you can also describe things a little bit more in a novel. But basically, if you just write a screenplay, or if you write a screenplay and add in those details, you have a novel. If you have a novel and strip back all of the description and interior monologue, you end up with a screenplay. So let's write this as a screenplay, and then we'll turn it into a novel. Screenplay is just very, very much easier to write, much more sparse and terse and to the point. Let's see. Can you guys see this? Okay, so let's do this. So let's say it's lunchtime. It's important that it's lunchtime because we want them also to eat that meal, because we know what the sort of the last bit of this scene is. We'd already worked that out yesterday. Okay, so dojo, lunchtime. Sharp sees, let's say, two people fighting. You've got to imagine this scene with me. So I'm thinking it's very much, do you remember Neo and Morpheus in The Matrix? Going back and forth, except here, I think we're going to have them fighting with, Sharp sees two people fighting with, training katanas. Those swords, either they're wooden swords or just, they're not quite as sharp as regular swords. And these two are, cha-cha-cha, going, clashing at it and going crazy. We can get a really good fight scene here. So they are going at it full pelt. Right, they're wooden. Let's make them wooden swords. Clash loudly. I don't know if clash is the right word. That sounds more metallic. But let's stick with it. We'll clash loudly and often. Let's say the two fighters. Let's say they're like, they're really good fighters, right? They're sort of flipping around. They're doing all that martial arts stuff. Very Dragon Ball Z, very Bleach. Gosh, I haven't watched Bleach in a long time. Flick and hurl themselves through the air and, all over the mats. Okay. Let's say Sharp. Okay, so this is what I'm about to do with this sentence. We said that again yesterday, guys. If you're not up to date with the story so far, please do go back and watch the earlier videos so you can catch up. I'm not going to do a full read through today of what we've done so far because I don't have time. But basically, with this one sister, this younger sister who he's meeting now has had to undergo a ritual of what they call yubitsume in Japan, whereby she atones for her sins by having to chop off basically all her fingers of her left hand, actually. So Sharp is going to see these two fighters going at it, but he notices that one of the fighters is keeping their left hand behind their back, as if to give the other fighter a handicap. That's what it looks like. In reality, though, it's Mizuki Matsumoto. It's this twin sister. And, she has to fight like that because she doesn't have a left hand. Okay, but we're going to, this is all what we discussed yesterday. So it's time now to put this into prose. All right. So Sharp notices one of the fighters appears to be holding, one hand behind their back. Let's say as if to give a handicap to their, what went wrong there? Nope. Their opponent. Okay. Remember, this sister is going to be a seriously strong character, just like the older sister Kyori Matsumoto, who was like a stone-faced, ice-cold, poker-faced, boss of the Yakuza. This sister, she's going to have a much more fiery personality, right? So we want to make that clear. This while Kyori Matsumoto would have her bodyguards and did have her bodyguards pull guns on our protagonist Mizuki Matsumoto, she's the one. She will get her own hands dirty, right? She will take down her enemies herself. So that's one difference. So let's say now that it seems to be helping. So Sharp notices one of the fighters appears to be holding one hand behind their back, as if to give a handicap to their opponent. Okay, this is a screenplay, then we're writing in present tense. Not that it seems to be helping. I am going to change this, obviously, all into a novel, but let's just write it as a screenplay because it's easier. Right, the single-handed fighter is Mizuki Matsumoto. Okay. So we said yesterday she's been training, right? So obviously she's training now. She's sparring with someone. She has a rigorous daily routine. Okay. Let's say we can bring this back in later. It doesn't need to be here. Yeah, she's sweating. Forget the little bit. Right, she's sweating. I think basically you got these two guys clashing together, and then Sharp walks in, and the other fighter sort of just goes, "Whoa, who's this?" Right? At which point this sister just mercilessly strikes him down, dispatches her opponent, and already that tells us what kind of character we're dealing with. This sister, she is A, much more violent than the older sister, and B, she does not suffer fools. Right? She's just going to cut you. She will stab you in the back and, smile about it. That's this character. So very different to her sister, which is important. Okay, so when Sharp approaches the mats, or the mat, the sparring partner turns, his head to see who it is. And that's when, Mizuki strikes him down. And let's put mercilessly. Okay. So we get an idea who this sister is and what kind of, poor bastard the sparring partner is. The poor bastard hits or slaps the mats. Unconscious. Okay, so this is sort of like, that's the opening image, right, that I want for this scene, I think. And I think that's quite powerful. Okay, immediately we see this sister in action. This is the first glimpse of Mizuki Matsumoto that we get, and she's fighting, and she's winning with one hand tied behind her back. Okay, always good to give your antagonists a lot of power, ideally even more than your protagonist. It just makes it that much better, that much more of an insurmountable challenge. Okay, and then so she dispatches this opponent, and then she's like, fool, never. What's that line from Batman when what's his name, Ra's al Ghul? He says like, always mind your surroundings. So fool, said the victor. Okay, kind of moving away. I'm not going to write all this dialogue like they do in screenplays, because that's just going to be a nightmare. So fool, said the victor. Sheathing, and I want to make this scene very sort of true to the manga and to the anime. Everything is very precise. They strike someone down, and then they sheath the sword. As they sheath the sword, they say something very wise and powerful. Probably I need to go and whip out a copy of The Art of War and get a better quote than always mind your surroundings, or never take your eye off your opponent. But whatever, that's something I can do later on. I'm not going to let it hold back what I need to write today. By the way, the whole purpose, from the outset, we'd said on this channel we're going to do 1 page a day. We've stuck fairly close to that, to be honest. I think we've done about, how many pages have we done? 10. We've done like 11 pages. And this is what, day 15, 16, 17? What are we on? Something like that. Now, we basically did write 1 page a day. It's just that some of those days we decided, that's crap. Oh no, that's crap. When we come back the next day, we just delete it. So just for all those people going, oh, I thought you were going to write 1 page a day. Well, technically I have. It's just that as, what's his name? As Hemingway said, 99 pages of crap to 1 page of, or was it 90? But whatever, 99 pages of crap for 1 good page. So yeah, what am I doing? All right, fool said this, right. And she slides her sword into a hip sheath. Do say hello in the chat, guys. It'd be nice to know that there are people out there. I'm guessing, I'm taking a lot of people through the night in America, and I'm happy to do that because we are all trying to get stuff done. All right, so yeah, let's just always, or never take your eye. It's something like that. We just need to get The Art of War out and pick a good quote. Never take your eyes off your opponent. What's going on here? Right. Okay. Let's put that in brackets so that I know that is not a finalized line. Okay. That looks pretty good. Okay. So then, she stepped over very disrespectfully, right? She's dispatched her opponent. I'm just trying to see this scene play out as a movie. What would happen next? So she sort of, she dispatches him, sheaths her sword, says this, badass line, and then turns to our protagonist and steps over the guy who she's just dispatched, pretty disrespectful, and then comes to greet our protagonist. And this is how they meet. So she stepped over her fallen opponent and came to greet me, and then we can have this bit that's come there that we wrote yesterday, that these two sisters, these twins, they're identical, right? Very, very much so identical. Mizuki Matsumoto was a carbon copy of her sister Kyori. They have the same porcelain white skin, the same long black lashes, and then we just needed a couple of differences so we'll be able to, tell the difference between these characters. And one thing we said about Kyori Matsumoto, the older sister, was that she has these, incredible red lips. She has these sticky red lips that are very alluring. So with Mizuki, with the younger sister, a simple change is just to have to wear, you know, instead of red lipstick, she's going to wear black lipstick, like oil, like bile. This sister has very much so a darker personality. You know, it's that thing, right? It's that little character, the funny hat that we can just identify the character. Okay. So, okay, I think we got rid of the robotic hand, right? We didn't have that. Instead, she's just going to... Mizuki kept her left hand, you know, behind her back, right? As if, right, she's been fighting one-handed, right? Because she is one-handed. But Sharp doesn't know that yet. Our protagonist doesn't know about this whole, you know, Yubitsume ritual. He doesn't know that just yet. He's going to find out. But at this point, he's just thinking, oh, this, you know, she's keeping that hand behind her back as if to say, I'm meeting you, but I'm so unafraid that you're going to attack me or do anything to me, that I'm just going to keep my hand behind my back. You know, even you are nothing of a challenge to me. Maybe folded is just to emphasize what I mean. While she extended her right hand towards me. Okay. Sharp-san, she said, an honor to meet you. Okay, so Kyori Matsumoto had spoken to me in Japanese. Apparently this sister didn't think I was as well endowed in the tongue department. Okay, I think that's fair enough. Right. I took her hand and shook it. Miss Matsumoto. Captain Matsumoto, she said, immediately tightening her grip on my hand until my little finger crunched under the pressure and I winced in pain. Don't think we need that line. Apologies, she said quickly, but my father ingrained the importance of... No, I don't want to say that. I want to say it's more like she's got a strong grip because she fights one-handed with swords, right? So obviously that's going to make you very, 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 very strong. So even though she's one-handed, she only has a right hand. That right hand is like, that is next level strength. So she'll say something like, you know, swordsman's grip. Swordsman's grip. Is that how you spell it? I don't know. I think that's probably about right. Oh, got to plug in this laptop again. 1 second, guys. All right, there we go. I suppose that's kind of a, what do you call it? An encouraging thing when you're writing and your laptop says, I can't keep up with you. It's kind of a feel-good moment. Right, what was I doing here? Apologies, she said quickly. Swordsman's grip, right? And our guy Sharp, you know, the guy he's got a problem with women. He doesn't like the fact, he doesn't like women. I don't know if he doesn't like them. He has a problem with them for some reason. We need to figure that out. But that's one of his character flaws. Okay, so, you know, I took back my hand. Now maybe we can, we use that line. I couldn't believe how strong she was. And then we'll have this line. So more importantly to him, I couldn't believe, I'd let. So if you remember, when our guy Sharp met the first sister, Kyori Matsumoto, he was basically on the back foot from the get-go, right? He walked straight into a trap, and she treated him like he was, you know, nothing. Like he was an ant, and she was a queen. And so too here, this sister is also going to get the immediate better of him by crushing his hand and saying, you know, you're weak. You know, without saying it, she's already got one up on him. So I couldn't believe I let this sister, get the better of me too. Okay. And by the way, this is exactly the type of thing that differentiates the screenplay from the novel from the screenplay, right? Because in a screenplay, you can write that line. right? You can write that. You can write that Sharp takes back his hand. You cannot write, I couldn't believe how strong she was. More importantly, I couldn't believe that's all interior. And that's the only difference between a screenplay and a novel. It's little lines like this. So good practice that you can do is go and buy a screenplay. Let's say something like, and by the way, you can buy screenplays. So here is The Hateful Eight, Quentin Tarantino. And, you know, that's what it looks like. You know, that's a screenplay. And you can go, and this is basically just all dialogue or, you know, a slight bit of screen direction and description of the scene. That's literally it. So good practice you can do is to just get one of these and then, you know, fill in, write for yourself all of the interior monologue. All right. So, more importantly, I couldn't believe I'd let this sister get the better of me too. Okay. So, Mizuki Matsumoto. So now we want her to, now that she's got the better of him, we want her to take control of the situation even more. And now she leads him inside this dojo. Begging me to follow her, you know, across the dojo. So, I did get a picture of a dojo. Let me just bring that up for you guys so everyone's on the same page here. 1 second. So I think it's going to be, looks something like this. Here we go. Let me just bring this up. 1 second, 1 second. All right, and then we're going to shove this onto this screen. All right. So, guys, can you see this? I literally typed in, you know, bleach and then dojo, right? So let's open the image in a new tab and we'll zoom in on it. And, you know, it's this kind of a thing, right? And looking at this, you know, this could be in the basement of a skyscraper in Tokyo. Remember, these are Yakuza captains. So yesterday I was thinking maybe Sharp goes to meet Mizuki at her house or something like that, or at some, you know, training center. It could be. I mean, it could still be a training center. But I think the dojo is in the city. I don't think it's in the mountain areas or anything like that. So, okay, this is basically what I'm thinking. So we've got to imagine this. And also, I think that, you know, the walls will be lined with, you know, swords, sharp objects, probably some trophies and that kind of thing. Again, in keeping with the backstory that we created yesterday and that we'll keep going on today. So, okay, dojo, right? That's what we're looking at. Just to keep everyone sort of up to date. How do we get rid of this? There we go. Okay. Close that down. Back to business. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Mizuki Matsumoto begged me to follow her across the dojo. So her feet. Again, now we just want to build up a little bit of the imagery in our head. So let's say, you know, her feet were bare. Her feet were bare. I think maybe her bare feet, they sort of make sucking sounds on the mat as she walks. The reason I like that is maybe because it's a little bit more. We talked about this again. You know, it's using the different senses of the body to put you there, and we want to delete as many of these to be verbs as possible because my editor's going to do that anyway. So, so it should be like her bare feet sucked at the mats as we walked across. Maybe her toenails are also painted black, right? Toenails were painted black like her lips. Okay. A little bit of color coordination there. Okay, so the walls were lined with various training swords, katanas, display cases. Is display cases hyphenated? Potentially. Trophies stood everywhere. Okay. Now, what's going on here? Trophies. Okay. Right. This is actually the end of the page. And in keeping with our rules of writing, I mean, there are no rules, but we said that every page needs to end with a line that will force the reader to turn the page. Obviously, this is a much later scene in the novel than chapter 1. So at this point, you'd expect, if someone has made it to this point, probably they're going to continue no matter what. They've bought into it already. That said, I don't think that's the best way of approaching anything, right? You shouldn't get lazy as the story progresses, right? You should treat every chapter as if it's the first chapter, right? Because maybe someone hasn't picked up this book in 2 weeks, and they want to get right back into it. And if they pick it up and they go, you know what, actually, this isn't such a great book, they're not going to finish the book. You're not going to get a good review, and potentially you've lost a reader. Okay, so we need to insert here, a compelling last line. We'll come back and do that. And it could just be like a little phrase, a little thought that he has, like, I got a bad feeling about this. Obviously, don't use that line, but something like that would just give a nudge to the reader. Oh, you want to see what happens next? Then, turn that page. Compelling last line. Okay. So again, keep it in the brackets. I like using brackets when I don't know something. It just helps me later on. Okay. So this is what we wrote yesterday about the, at some point in this scene, Mizuki Matsumoto has to give the background, right? She has to give her side of the story. We already had one side of the story from Kyori Matsumoto. So obviously her sister is going to have her own version of events. And let's read it through this a little bit so we remember. And then let's fit it together with this dojo scene and make it all, and sew it all up. So my sister was always jealous of my father's love for me. And when Kyori ascended to captain, she took great pleasure in punishing me for it. Have you heard of Yubitsume? I shook my head. Yubitsume is a ritual of repentance, said Mizuki. A way to atone for transgressions against one another and humble oneself before the greater whole. She motioned me towards a glass display case containing a model hand holding a very sharp, ornate knife. I couldn't help but notice the crusted brown blood on the blade. Some say this ritual originated with degenerate gamblers who could not pay their debts. But in fact, it dates back much further, to the samurai and legendary swordsman. You see, Mr. Sharp, in swordplay, it is the little finger which grips the tightest on the hilt. To amputate this finger, then, is to weaken one's grip, and a weak grip betrays a weak warrior. Thus, he becomes more dependent on the protection of his master. I didn't like that quip about the weak grip. Maybe this comes here, like, okay, so something like, so she says that, right? I didn't like that quip about the weak grip. She paused long enough just for me to realize that I was massaging my hand from our handshake. Okay, we need to figure out which one happens. She held up her left hand, or rather what was left of it. 14 offenses did Kyori accuse me of the day after her ascension, said Mizuki. For each offense, another knuckle was cut. I gaped at her stump. Right, she holds up this hand, and it's just basically a stump. Kyori cut off your fingers? Mizuki shook her head. I did. Right? It was hard to look her in the eye, and then, okay, and then the scene ends here. So, okay, I mean, there's some good stuff there. Basically, all of this needs to be, reined back in and edited. It doesn't read at all. So let's see if we can get there. So we've got trophies standing everywhere. Okay, the other thing that we said yesterday was, let me just read this bit so everyone is caught up. Again, it's more of the backstory. So this younger sister was the father's favorite. The father, who was a Yakuza captain, was going to bequeath the captaincy to his younger daughter, despite the fact that his older daughter was the good child, did everything that was necessary to become captain of the Yakuza and take over from her father. He was still going to give it to the mischievous younger child who he loved more, favored more. And then the older sister killed the father. Kyori kills the father, takes the captaincy by force, claiming it's her birthright. And then immediately, subjects her younger sister to tortures out of spite and jealousy. The younger sister then, she flees, obviously. She flees and she goes to a rival family, right? A rival Yakuza family. And this is what she's saying now. So I threw myself at the feet of our clan's fiercest rival. She gestured at a large painting on the wall. The subject was clad in a lustrous silk kimono, kneeling on a cushion. His steel grey hair was pulled tight into a bun. His face could have broken glass. My revered master, Kenji Takahashi. It took many months to convince him of my allegiance, but eventually we drank from the same cup, and he became my oyabun. Oyabun being, again, this was part of the research. Oyabun is like a foster father, basically, right? He takes, you've got the mentor and the mentee relationship, and they call that oyabun and kobun in Japan. Right, I saw a photo beside the portrait of the ceremony to which she referred. The former 7th captain of the Yakuza sharing a single chalice of sake with Mizuki, cementing their new father-daughter relationship. I think we need to change this to mentor-disciple relationship. Why would your fiercest rival take you in? Right, that's what Sharp says, because it is a valid question. And Mizuki says, no, the intensity of their rivalry was matched by their mutual respect. When Kenji heard of Kyori's dishonorable acts against me, i.e. she cut off my hand, he took me under his wing. Okay, so we've got this rival Yakuza boss, and this sister has gone to him for protection. So let's go back up and let's try and stitch this all together. So okay, let's just read this. So we wrote the first bit like a screenplay, and let's begin to turn everything into prose now. So okay, so dojo lunchtime. Sharp sees two people fighting with training katanas. They are going at it full pelt. Their wooden swords clash loudly and often. The two fighters flip and hurl themselves through the air and all over the mats. Sharp notices one of the fighters appears to be holding one hand behind their back, as if to give a handicap to their opponent. Not that it seems to be helping. The single-handed fighter is Mizuki Matsumoto. She's sweating. When Sharp approaches the mat, the sparring partner turns his head to see who it is, and that's when Mizuki strikes him down mercilessly. The poor bastard slaps the mats unconscious. Fool, said the victor, sliding her sword into a hip sheath. Never take your eyes off your opponent. Or something like that. We need to figure that out. She stepped over her fallen opponent and came to greet me. I'd seen twins before, but none so identical as these. Mizuki Matsumoto was a carbon copy of her sister Kyori. The same porcelain white skin, the same long black lashes. Only Kyori's lips had been red like crushed cherries, while Mizuki's were black like oil. Mizuki kept her left hand folded behind her back while she extended her right hand towards me. Sharp-san, she said. An honor to meet you. Kyori Matsumoto had spoken to me in Japanese. Apparently this sister Didn't think I was as well endowed in the tongue department. I took her hand and shook it. Miss Matsumoto. Captain Matsumoto, she said, immediately tightening her grip on my hand until my little finger crunched under the pressure, and I winced in pain. Apologies, she said, quickly. Swordsman's grip. I took back my hand. I couldn't believe how strong she was. More importantly, I couldn't believe I'd let this sister get the better of me too. Mizuki Matsumoto beckoned me to follow her across the dojo. Her bare feet sucked at the mats as we walked across. Her toenails were painted black like her lips. The walls were lined with various training swords, katanas, display cases, and photos. Trophies stood everywhere. I think, actually, here is where there seems to be a line missing here, it feels like. And I think this is the compelling last line of this page. End page with this line. Okay? And then the next page, we can sort of go into a bit more description. We've earned the reader's trust that something is going to happen. So it's worth reading on. Okay, so the walls are lined with various training swords, katanas, display cases, and photos. Trophies stood everywhere. Okay, so maybe she'll say something like, the Takahashi School. Let's give that a capital. Okay, yeah, this is a good... Let's try something like this. Is renowned for its excellence, said Mizuki. Right, so remember, she fled to this rival Yakuza captain who was head of this, warrior clan, let's say. He owns this dojo. He instills within this younger sister, the one who had all the unchanneled potential, which her father, thought that one day she would be able to control, and that would turn her into a force to be reckoned with. She flees and goes to this rival captain who is a martial arts expert, and this martial arts expert says, I will take you under my wing now. I see how you've been mistreated by your family. And then he trains her with this rigorous training method. And, once he dies, she takes over as head of his operation, and now she's ready to declare war on her sister. It's something like that. So students, let's say students are required to undergo, I'm not sure if we'll use this idea of it's a school, maybe it's just like, some sort of, not a religion, but like a practice, an everyday practice. Quite a rigorous daily training. We have a 92%. Let's make this like something ridiculous. Dropout rate. But those that survive become champions. Okay, so it could be something like this. The Takahashi School is renowned for its excellence, said Mizuki. Students are required to undergo rigorous daily training. We have a 92% dropout rate. But those that survive become champions. Do you practice the martial arts, maybe? Do you practice the martial arts, Mr. Sharp? And I think this is more like a jest, a comment said in jest. She's already crushed his hand, so she's like, I know you're not a fighter. She's sort of taunting him a little bit. Do you practice the martial arts, Mr. Sharp? And then he's got to make keep in mind, this guy, he's got jokes. So he's got to make some sort of a sly quip. I'm thinking it's something to do with the ex-wife, right? He keeps referring to this ex-wife. So, it's like, do you practice the martial arts, Mr. Sharp? Only with my ex-wife. It's something like that. I fought my ex-wife for 10 years. Something like that. my ex-wife, for 10 years. I said, I really do think this ex-wife is going to play a major part somehow in this story. I don't know what yet. Maybe that's what he's looking for. Maybe he's looking for his ex-wife or something like that. I fought my ex-wife for 10 years, I said. No harder opponent than family. That might be a good segue. Fought my ex-wife for 10 years, I said. Family. Maybe there's a quote here from The Art of War or something like that. An ancient proverb. I'm just trying to think of a segue between this part here and what we wrote here, because she can't just start talking about her sister, right? My sister was always jealous of my father's love for me. You don't just do that in a conversation. So actually, this might be a pretty good segue. So she's like, "Do you practice the martial arts, Mr. Sharp?" I fought my ex-wife for 10 years. And then, Mizuki Matsumoto, now that this line is actually pretty good because it opens the door to the conversation going in the direction of family and fighting with family. He said it in jest, but Mizuki can take it in a very serious direction now. Okay, so that's actually quite good. So family is the family provides life's. I'm sure there's some kind of quote like this. Provides life's hardest opponents. Right? I'm going to research that. I'm going to search today after this session for a quote, a really good quote by someone who is much more, by a greater poet than I, let's say. And then that line will really, that line could be a very powerful line. Okay, provides life's hardest opponents. And then she can sort of segue very easily into this. Take my sister, for instance. She was always jealous of my father's love for me. And when Kyori ascended to captain... okay, so take... Okay, my sister... Okay, it's something like that. I don't quite know, but it flows. There is a flow there that I can use. So... yeah, okay, fine. So my sister was always jealous of my father's love for me, and when Kyori ascended to captain, she took great pleasure in punishing me for it. Have you heard of Yubitsume? And now we go into this backstory of how her older sister made her cut off, took revenge against the younger sister out of spite, out of jealousy for the father's love, and she cuts off all the fingers. You see Mr. Sharp in sword plays a little finger, right? To amputate this finger then is to weaken one's grip. I think, yeah, so this part didn't read quite right. Let's see. Let's see here. Okay. When does she lift up her... I think this is in the wrong place. 14 offenses did Kyori accuse me of the day after her ascension, said Mizuki. For each offense, another knuckle was cut. So she brought out her left hand from behind her back. And then he's like, I gaped at her stump, right? Kyori cut off your fingers? Mizuki shook her head. I did. That's the ritual, right? The person themselves has to cut off their own fingers, which is you can imagine what that does to a person. Yeah. We said yesterday. Oh, okay. So, right, let me just recap this because I don't think we actually put this down on paper. But we said this yesterday. So let's read this again, and then I'll explain it. So Yubitsume is a ritual of repentance, said Mizuki, a way to atone for transgressions against another and humble oneself before the greater whole. She motioned me towards a glass display case containing a model hand holding a very sharp, ornate knife. I couldn't help but notice the crusted brown blood on the blade. So he says containing a model hand, and we said, wouldn't it be cool, or wouldn't it be just so appropriate to such, to this kind of a story, if it's not actually a model hand in there, but it's actually Mizuki's own hand, the one that she had to cut off. She's sort of self-taxidermied it, and it's holding the knife that was used to cut it off, and she's kept that as sort of a what do you call it? Like a driving force. It's something to just remind her why she needs to train every day, why she needs to take out her sister. It's a constant reminder and a constant fuel on that fire that's burning inside. It's something that's the point. So she motioned me towards a glass display case containing a model hand holding a very sharp knife. I couldn't help but notice the crusted brown blood on the blade. Some say this ritual, right? So you see, Mr. Shopping Short plate is right. To amputate this finger then is to weaken one's grip, and a weak grip betrays a weak warrior. I didn't like that quip about the weak grip. Okay, actually, what happens? Let's put this here. Thus, the warrior becomes more dependent on the protection of his master and pledges greater allegiance. Allegiance? That doesn't look right. Allegiance? Oh, right. Greater allegiance. Just pledges greater allegiance to his clan. To their clan. Okay, so that's how the ritual works, right? You went against your clan, you were selfish, and now they're going to force you to bond with the clan even more, to rely on them even more. That's the whole point. Thus the warrior becomes more dependent on the protection of his master and pledges greater allegiance to their clan. Okay, Sharp's got to do something here. Okay, and then she continues. 14 offenses did Kuri accuse me of the day after her ascension, said Mizuki. For each offense, another knuckle was cut. She brought out her left hand from behind her back. I gaped at her stump. Kuri cut off your fingers? Mizuki shook her head. I did. And then, so then he's got to realize, oh crap, in this glass display, that's not a model hand. That's her hand. Right? There has to be that moment of recognition. Okay. So 14 offenses, right? For each offense, another knuckle was cut. She brought out her left hand from behind her back. I gaped at her stump. You mean, maybe this is more subtle than that. You mean, Mizuki nodded. I turned back to the model hand, to the hand in the display case. Her hand. Okay. I started to feel. Okay, that's not quite the right line, but whatever. So immediately we get this, and hey, we've written the page for today. You know, we've just achieved our goal pretty much, which is good. That was quick. How long was that? Not even an hour. Very good. Okay, that was a good day. We said yesterday that probably today's going to be an easy day of writing, just because we figured out so much of the backstory yesterday. Okay, so we have this scene. Let's read it through once more, and then figure out exactly what I need to do for the rest of the day, research-wise. Remember, I'm not going to write. I never write anything, guys, except in front of you. You know, before your eyes. So, we still have a little bit that we wrote yesterday, backstory-wise, to then turn into more of this scene. Right, so I threw myself at the feet. This is Mizuki talking about what happened after she cut off her hand. You know, that fateful night. So I threw myself at the feet of our clan's fiercest rival. Okay, so we need to figure this out. Where to put this exactly? Now we've said. Okay, the walls were lined with various training swords, katanas, display cases, and photos. Trophies stood everywhere. Okay, so we need a compelling last line here, by the way. Okay, these are all things that need to be adjusted. Also, this needs to be turned from screenplay into prose. Dojo, lunchtime. Sharp sees two people fighting with training katanas. They are going at it full pelt. Their wooden swords clash loudly and often. The two fighters flip and hurl themselves through the air and all over the mats. Sharp notices one of the fighters appears to be holding one hand behind their back, as if to give a handicap to their opponent. Not that it seems to be helping. The single-handed fighter is Mizuki Matsumoto. She's sweating. It just doesn't seem to be... it just doesn't read right. When Sharp approaches the mat, the sparring partner turns his head to see who it is, and that's when Mizuki strikes him down mercilessly. The poor bastard slaps the mats, unconscious. Fool, said the victor, sliding her sword into a hip sheath. Never take your eyes off your opponent. She stepped over her fallen opponent and came to greet me. Maybe Sharp says, look, our character, he's got a mouth, right? So maybe whatever she says, he's got to have a quip back, right? So, witty comment by Sharp, right? And then Mizuki's eyes slid. Mizuki's eyes fixed on me. She stepped over a fallen opponent and came to greet me. I'd seen twins before, but none so identical as these. Mizuki Matsumoto was a carbon copy of her sister, Kyori. The same porcelain white skin, the same long black lashes. Only Kyori's lips had been red like crushed cherries, while Mizuki's were black like oil. Mizuki kept her left hand folded behind her back, while she extended her right hand towards me. Sharp-san, she said. An honor to meet you. Kyori Matsumoto had spoken to me in Japanese. Apparently this sister didn't think I was as well endowed in the tongue department. I took her hand and shook it. Miss Matsumoto? Captain Matsumoto, she said, immediately tightening her grip on my hand until my little finger crunched under the pressure, and I winced at the pain. Coffee quills! With a raid, thank you. Great to have you all here. Continuing on from yesterday. Captain Matsumoto, she said, immediately tightening her grip on my hand until my little finger crunched under the pressure and I winced at the pain. Apologies, she said quickly. Swordsman's grip. I took back my hand. I couldn't believe how strong she was. More importantly, I couldn't believe I'd let this sister get the better of me too. Mizuki Matsumoto beckoned me to follow her across the dojo. Her bare feet sucked at the mats as we walked across. Her toenails were painted black like her lips. So we need to end this page with that compelling last line. Okay, now he describes the dojo. So the walls were lined with various training swords, katanas, display cases, and... Oh, Conquest Publishing. Thank you for the follow. The walls were lined with various training swords, katanas, display cases, and photos. Trophies stood everywhere. The Takahashi School is renowned for its excellence, said Mizuki. Students are required to undergo rigorous daily training. We have a 92% dropout rate. Ah, but those that survive become champions. Do you practice the martial arts, Mr. Sharp? I fought my ex-wife for 10 years, I said. And then we have this segue into, we need to find this proverb. Okay, guys, anyone out there just joining, does anybody know like a good Japanese or, some sort of art of war quote, that says something like family provides life's hardest opponents? I need something like that that will then cause this segue into Mizuki telling us the backstory, her side of the story of what happened all those years ago when she got kicked out of the clan. So that's what that line is supposed to be. So anyone with any suggestions, chuck them my way. My sister was always jealous of my father's love of my father's love for me, and when Kyori ascended to captain, she took great pleasure in punishing me for it. Have you heard of Yubitsume? I shook my head. Yubitsume is a ritual of repentance, said Mizuki, a way to atone for transgressions against one another and humble oneself before the greater whole. She motioned me towards a glass display case containing a model hand holding a very sharp, ornate knife. I couldn't help but notice the crusted brown blood on the blade. Some say this ritual originated with degenerate gamblers who could not pay their debts, but in fact it dates back much further, to the samurai and legendary swordsman. You see, Mr. Sharp, in swordplay, it is the little finger which grips the tightest on the hilt. To amputate this finger then is to weaken one's grip, and a weak grip betrays a weak warrior. She paused long enough for me to realize that I was massaging my hand from our handshake. Thus the warrior becomes more dependent on the protection of his master and pledges greater allegiance to their clan. Then Sharp has to say something. 14 offenses did Kyori accuse me of the day after her ascension, said Mizuki. For each offense, another knuckle was cut. She brought out her left hand from behind her back. I gaped at her stump. You mean? Mizuki nodded. I turned back to the hand in the display case. Her hand. Right? So we have that. Obviously, this needs to all be, sort of edited and made nicer. But it's not a model hand in that display case. It's her hand. It's the hand that she had to cut off as part of this ritual. And she's kept it, self-taxidermied it. And that's what's fueling her hate. It's what's fueling her drive to go and, now declare war against her sister. So these two sisters are really going to go at it, and it's going to get very explosive. And our guy Sharp, he's right in the middle. Okay, so that's where we got to today. I think the cool thing that we were doing was starting, writing it in screenplay format and then turning it into prose, right? Which I do think is a really cool technique because, again, the only difference between a screenplay and a novel is simply that in a novel we can go into the character's head, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. Guys, buy some screenplays. You can get them anywhere. Here's one by Quentin Tarantino, and they look incredible, like when you actually read them up close. And all you have to do as a great practice Yeah. Okay. Conquest Publishing. We use that a lot in. You use what the screenplay format, or how do you mean? But basically, I like to do that a lot. If yeah, the screenplay format. Yeah. So useful, I think, because it's just so much quicker to write. Right. You know, you've got you're not sure on how a scene should go. You don't know all the description and all that kind of stuff. You don't need it. You just put, dojo lunchtime, and good. That bit can always be edited later. We can add in all that stuff later. So this is a technique that one of my editors recommended me to use when I was late for a deadline. She said, right, look, just write it as a screenplay, and then it's very easy after that to just put in all of the extra bits. So again, I'll give you an example of that, which would be something like this. Okay, so I took back my hand. I couldn't believe how strong she was. More importantly, I couldn't believe I'd let this sister get the better of me too. In a screenplay, all you'd write is I took back my hand, or Sharp takes back his hand, right? You can't do this extra bit here of the I couldn't believe how strong she was, because that's not something you can see on the screen. Yeah, okay, now the opposite is a lot harder, for sure, I think. Yeah, so Conquest Publishing, I agree with you, that does get involved when we are doing the reverse. When you take a novel and then you try and turn it into a screenplay, the amount of cutting that you have to do, yeah, I mean, it's painful. Wow, is it painful? And that's why I guess most people say that films never quite live up to the novel that they're based on. It's just because there's not enough time in a novel, right? In a screenplay. You've got 120 pages. Each page is a minute long, roughly. So, unless you want to do a 9-hour film, or probably even more, you're not going to get a 400-page screenplay, that's for sure. So, yeah. Anyway, I like this technique of doing that. I also like writing in the present tense just every now and then. Obviously, I don't do that in my novels. Some people do it, but I like it. And I really like the setting. I think this dojo thing is working. So dojo lunchtime, Sharp sees two people fighting with training katanas. They're going at it full pelt. Their wooden swords clash loudly and often. The two fighters flip and hurl themselves through the air and all over the mats. Sharp notices one of the fighters appears to be holding one hand behind their back, as if to give a handicap to their opponent. Not that it seems to be helping. The single-handed fighter is Mizuki Matsumoto. When Sharp approaches the mat, the sparring partner turns his head to see who it is, and that's when Mizuki strikes him down mercilessly. The poor bastard slaps the mats unconscious. Right? We get it, right? That's a great introduction for a character, I think, as well. We had to reorganize action sequences. Wow. So Conquest Publishing, you're quite accomplished in your craft. It's great to have you here. So glad that more and more people are coming into this. Please do give all kinds of feedback and help, not just for my own writing, but everyone here is encouraged to share, send in their own stuff. We'll bring it up on the screen. We did that for Tallulah a couple of days ago, and we all tried to help her out with her story. I want to make this a safe space for writers to share ideas. But what I like about this today, what we wrote today, is that we're introducing this character, this Mizuki Matsumoto, very, very, very in an action-packed way, right? We see her strike down this opponent. She's a fighter. She only has one hand, right? And yet, that's all a part of the backstory. It only makes her, stronger. She's not holding herself back. In fact, the fact that she has lost this hand to her sister made her chop off her own fingers, because just of spite, just because the father loved the younger sister more. So it's all about that. Conquest Publishing, oh, you're a mentorship program. Wow. Cool. Maybe I can get in on that. I would like to have some mentors. I'm always open to that. And in fact, mentorship is something we've been talking about with this character here. So this younger sister, she flees from her own clan after being tortured by her older sister. I will check out the site for sure. She flees to the right. I threw myself at the feet of our clan's fiercest rival, right? And then this rival takes her under his wing, and he becomes her oyabun, which in Japanese is like the mentor disciple relationship. That's something we're going to write tomorrow. We have a start, but we haven't really put it in. Today was all about just introducing the character and making her, and showing her as this badass, very different to her older sister. Her older sister in chapter 1, as we saw, was a stone-faced, ice-cold, basically like a princess. She was very regal in her attitude, and she didn't get her hands dirty. She said, she snaps her fingers, and her bodyguards say, her bodyguards pull out the guns on our protagonist. This sister, she gets her hands dirty. Plans for how she learns. How she learns what? So this scene is taking place, just to give you guys some context here. Our guy Sharp, in chapter 1, he was called to one of the Yakuza captains, and the Yakuza captain said to him, "I'm going to hire you for a job, and the job is to kill my sister, my younger sister, who has just become captain, another captain of the Yakuza." So there are 23 captains of the Yakuza, and these two sisters are now captains of different wards. And one sister, the older sister, has hired our guy to go and kill her younger sister. She wants her out. She's not having it. She's always been jealous of her, from the father favoring the younger sister, to now this sister working her way up the ranks and becoming a rival Yakuza captain, right? So now Sharp, this is a much later scene in the novel. Okay, how she moves, right, yeah. So that is something that we're going to write, after this. She's going to explain this all in this meeting, right? So, again, we'll just give a little bit more context. I mean, I could read you guys chapter 1 so you sort of have all of the context. I'm happy to do that if you guys want me to. But to give a brief summary, this Mizuki, this younger sister, she was always mischievous. While the older sister, Kyori Matsumoto, she was the good child. She did everything. She was groomed to take over from her father as captain of the Yakuza. But her father, despite all of the mischievousness and unchanneled potential of the younger sister Mizuki, he was going to give the younger sister the captaincy. He just favored her more. So Kyori Matsumoto kills her father, takes the captaincy by force, claims her birthright, and then the very next day, as captain of the Yakuza, she calls her younger sister to order, and she says, "You have wronged me." And she makes the younger sister undergo this ritual of Yubitsume, which we, did the research on a few days ago, this ritual of repentance. And she basically says to the younger sister, "You've done all of these things wrong in our life. These are the reasons you have wronged me. And, now you have to chop off for each wrong. You must chop off a little bit of your hand." And obviously she makes it 14 offenses because there are 14 joints on the hand. And therefore, Mizuki Matsumoto has to chop them off one at a time. She then flees from her clan. Obviously, this younger sister Mizuki, she flees. She joins up with this rival family, and this rival family, this is like 10 years ago, they take her in, they start to train her up. They say, you're not ready to go up against your sister just yet, but stick with this program. We are going to channel that unchanneled potential. We're going to turn you into a warrior. And, that was this whole thing, right? The Takahashi School is renowned for its excellence. Students are required to undergo rigorous daily training. It was this training that taught this younger sister to channel all of her power. And now that the mentor has died and she has taken over as captain, she is ready to go to war. She is ready to get her revenge on her older sister. And I just like the fact that she's kept this mutilated hand, right? She chopped it all off. And obviously the mentor was like, we're going to keep this. We're going to keep this hand. We're going to, put it back together. We're going to put it into a display case, and it's going to hold the knife. And that is, you're going to remember this. You're going to see this, and you're going to remember all the time why you need to keep training, right? Why you need to keep pushing yourself to get better and better, because one day you'll be ready to go up against your sister, and you need that fire. You need all of this training to help you be victorious. And now we are joining the novel at that precise time when... Oh, thank you so much to Emika... What is that? Emika Dolian for following. Yeah, and now lurking and supporting. Thank you so much. Yeah, so that's it. That's the sort of the backstory. So, guys, I can read you chapter 1 so you're all caught up. Or, I mean, that we've done the writing for today. So, coffee quills. Always good to have coffee quills. Coffee quills. You're actually living in Japan, right? Someone said that to me yesterday. An expat in Japan, right? So maybe you definitely going to need some advice from you on because this novel is set obviously in Japan. So okay, so that's basically it for today. So 1 page a day is the goal for this channel, and I'll do all the research off screen, bring it to you, and then we'll try and work out how we can make a novel out of this. So this is a novel about revenge. It's a novel about two sisters going to war against each other, and our guy Sharp, mysterious Mr. Sharp, is in the middle, and we are not quite sure what's going to happen. However, we did make a promise to the reader. Let me just go back to the very, very beginning, because guys, I will definitely need some help with this. Keep in mind, this is a story. I have no idea what's going to happen. We are just pantsing our way through this. Look at this first line. I'm going to tell you a story which you'll believe, and then I'll tell you the truth, which you won't. Pretty good first line, I think. But that promise of there is going to be a twist that nobody's going to see coming, that's definitely going to need a lot of thought put into it. But it's an exciting moment in the future, I think. So hopefully everyone here is going to be able to chip into that, and we'll come out with a novel that is really quite cool and really quite awesome. Maybe even a screenplay as well at the same time. Who knows? So what do you guys think? You guys want me to read you chapter 1 to get you all caught up? I think a lot of people have already heard it. I don't want to keep having to read it all the time, but I'm happy to if you guys want. So let me know. Otherwise, we're going to have to end this stream in about 10 minutes or so, simply because it's early morning in London here, and I got to get to work. So, yeah, what do you guys think? What do you guys want to do? Let me know. It's not that long, chapter 1, about 6 pages or so, or maybe longer. How many? 8 pages. Okay. So this dojo scene, I think it all works, right? It's only 3:20 a.m. there. Okay, so yeah, you got a lot of time before work. I don't think I can keep going for 5 hours though. But I'm happy to take you guys at least through the next 10 to 15 minutes of this night. Is anyone out there writing at the same time? That's what I want to know. And if so, what are you writing? Okay, maybe we can maybe we can get in these witty comments by Sharp. So let's have a search. Okay, so we said we wanted here that Mizuki, she dispatches this opponent, and then she says, She needs a quote from The Art of War, something like that. Mr. Shadow Paradox is writing something, but it's a secret. All right. Can you? Is it a secret that we can try and guess? Because I love the name, by the way, Mr. Shadow Paradox. Mr. Shadow Paradox. Shadow is a good name. I like Shadow as a name. There've been some characters with the name Shadow, right? I'm thinking more like comics, X-Men, that kind of thing. Mr. Shadow Paradox is now following. Thank you very much for the follow. Great to have you here. Let's try and get this channel at least up to 50 followers, so I can upload some of the older videos that we did, especially day 1, 2, and 3. I think those were really instructive. Lots of positive feedback there. But those are available on YouTube at the Right Before Your Eyes channel. So guys, if you want to check out how we wrote day 1, page 1, 2, and 3, the start of chapter 1, that was a lot of fun. Oh man, that was a lot of fun. Sort of a script, but not planned to be a movie. That's all I'm saying for now. All right. Okay. All right. Let's see, guys. Can we get a little bit more information out of Mr. Shadow Paradox? See, this is how you build suspense, right? We're talking about a suspense novel, and okay. So yeah, let's you say I'm working on something secret, right? And then you don't tell anyone, and we all want to know what it is. That's perfect. Okay, so Conquest Publishing. Okay, good question. So I think, as a student of the martial arts, I'm not a fan of the school bragging about the loss of a lot of students. Okay, so that's really good. So my intention with that line, let's see if we can make it better. My intention with that line was to, right, the Takahashi School is renowned for its excellence. Students are required to undergo rigorous daily training. We have a 92% dropout rate. So this is the part you're referring to, right? What I sort of got this actually from the Bulgarian weightlifting school methodology. They're not necessarily bragging about losing their students. They're bragging about the fact that their training is so hard that it requires a very special type of person to succeed, and they only take the best of the best. It's a bit like the SAS, right? In America, what do you have? The Rangers, right? The Ranger School. I think David Mamet was speaking about this in his or the SEALs, exactly, or the Marines, right? He said this in his masterclass. He said the first thing they say to you day 1 of Ranger School is, congratulations, you are now a US Ranger. You have 48 hours or however long it is. You have 2 weeks to see if you can keep that title, right? And then they put you through hell. And the ones that drop out, they're happy to see them go. You are not a Ranger. You did not make the cut. So too, that's the kind of thing that I want from this, that I was thinking with that line. So if it's not so clear, we need to edit that. We need to make it clear. So, and all the more so, it makes that all the more so. It tells us all the more about her character Mizuki. This one-handed, she's only got one hand. She had to chop off the other hand. And this is a sword fighting school basically. So you can imagine what the struggle was for her to learn and become the talented warrior that she is. Right? We've just seen her fighting one of the other members of the school, and she's cha with only one hand on the sword, which I believe, by the way, is not the correct way to hold a sword, a proper Japanese samurai sword. That's a two-handed job, right? And yet she's managing to do it with one hand, and not only hold her own, but essentially dispatch the other members of the school. So she herself, we understand that this character has gone through a lot, and she's worked her way up. She's had a rough go of things, and we can see just how what kind of fire, how much passion and burning desire she has to take revenge against her sister, because her sister took everything from her, right? She took the captaincy that was due to the younger sister. Her father was going to give the younger sister all the power, the keys to the kingdom, and the older sister killed the father and took it as a matter of birthright, and then essentially dispatched, tortured the younger sister until she fled from the family, and went to find this mentor, this Kenji Takahashi. These names, I mean, come on, guys. Like, if I've heard a Japanese name, it's going in there. But obviously, we will make these names better when we do the editing. But that's the idea. So hopefully that makes sense, Conquest Publishing. I don't know. Does that make sense? How can we make that more clear if it's not so clear at the moment? So yeah, maybe I'll try and get this never take your eye. Let's see. If I search online, can I find a nice proverb, Japanese proverb about what is it? About not taking your eyes off your opponent. Let's see. Probably something from the Art of War. Art of War, never take your eyes off your opponent. We did come up with that great quote a little bit earlier. The fruits of, what is it? The fruits of our labor are sweetened by the sweat of our brow. That was pretty good. I'm kind of scared that that's already a proverb somewhere. Someone's already said that before. But that was pretty cool when we came up with that for chapter 1. Here we go. Let's see. Art of War quotes. Sun Tzu. Okay, I'm going to have to search for this more because I don't think anything's coming up. But Art of War quotes, maybe. Quotes, never take your eyes off your opponent. Come on, something like that. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Okay, that doesn't quite fit with... Oh, maybe Sharp could say that. Maybe... Okay, so our guy... Remember, I don't want to make him like a Jack Reacher type of person. He's not the bruiser. He's not the super spy, martial arts expert. He's a bit more James Bond in the sense that he's very suave, and he's very suave, and he's more of a talker, right? Our guy. Great masters breed more success. It's clear though that the line shows it's difficult, but show the success versus how many fall. Perhaps focus on the many champions that have come from the dojo. Right. Okay. That's good advice. So, yeah, at the moment, all I've got is the walls were lined with, katanas, display cases, photos, trophies stood everywhere. So maybe we can make this a little bit more clear and lean into that a little bit more. I like the idea of this being a school. It could also just be that this mentor was just, he himself is a very disciplined person. One of these, and when he took her under his wing, he made her follow this program of daily training. But I think actually, if we do go with this school, what I'm thinking is, if these two sisters, and we've said this before in previous videos, that these two sisters are now 2 Yakuza captains. Obviously, these two captains are not going to be allowed to go to war against each other. That's bad for business, right? The Yakuza is, the Japanese mafia. The mafia is organized crime, emphasis being on organized. Therefore, 2 captains going to war against each other, no. The other 21 captains are going to be like, no, this is not happening. If you two try and go to war, if you two destroy our business in any way or hamper our business in any way, then we all will come against you and we will take you out. We will remove you as heads of the Yakuza. So obviously these 2 sisters have a problem, but it's how they resolve that problem. And I'm thinking maybe this martial arts school could be the answer. So maybe the line is something like war is strictly prohibited between Yakuza captains for obvious reasons. So we're going to settle, I propose we settle this via the martial arts, right? This is Mizuki's idea. And then we can make this a whole lot better. We can take it to the next level. So instead of it just being like a Karate Kid competition in the dojo, let's not do that. Let's take it more like into the Koto docks in Japan, right? The docks, the shipping yard, where we've got all these, shipping containers everywhere. I'm only getting this because this was an idea we had a few days ago, that maybe something happens at the shipping port. That seems like a good location. Lots of contraband being shipped in by the Yakuza. But let's imagine that there is, some like fight club that's going on there. Some sort of fighting tournament. You've got all these multicolored shipping containers on all sides filled with all sorts of, weapons, contraband, drugs, all that kind of thing. Maybe it's held, once every 5 years. It's a very, it's an underground fighting tournament where these Yakuza bosses can settle the differences that they've been having, right? That's quite good, actually. So the Yakuza, the organized crime, they realize that these things are going to crop up. They realize that disputes are going to arise between captains, but it's bad for business. So what they say is, in that very traditional Japanese way of, we'll do things properly and we will do things at the right time in the right way. They say, maybe it's every year, right? Every year, 1 day a year, everyone gets to settle their differences in the ring. And they erect this huge, this rig, this operation in the shipping yard. And it's an underground event. And these Yakuza captains can, put out their best fighters. And they can settle their disputes essentially in the ring, in the ground. And obviously we can make that, very gory. We can do it like... so is Mr. Sharp an undercover agent? We haven't figured out quite what look, maybe I'll read chapter 1 for you guys, and then you can get the idea. I think that's going to be the easiest way. But essentially, he's been hired by one sister to infiltrate, it seems, the second sister's organization. So, and help take her down. Right? Kyori Matsumoto does not want to settle things in the ring. She wants to kill her sister. She does not like her sister at all, obviously. All right, let me read. Is there a place to read it online? Look, you can. Actually, I haven't got the actual page online. I've got the older videos, but I could post this up online, or I could send it to you. Simple as that. I'll whisper it across if you want. But okay, look, whatever. Look, maybe I'll just read it now, and we'll end this. So anyone watching on YouTube, you might want to, if you've seen some of the older episodes, you can skip. You're right, about 12 minutes into the future for the sign off. But for everyone here, I hope this isn't going to be boring. Hopefully, we have at least a few new people in the chat who might want to, who haven't heard this beginning before. But even if you have heard it, guys, throw out the comments, right? Let's make it better. I'm not precious over what I write. This can be a writer's room for the next 15 minutes. Let's all strap in. Okay, if that sounds good, I'm just going to start reading. 1 second. Okay, especially thoughts for who Mr. Sharp could be. That would be, what his backstory is. That's going to be very useful. Okay, here we go. I'm going to tell you a story which you'll believe, and then I'll tell you the truth which you won't. It goes like this. 3 days after I arrived in Japan, I came back to my hotel, and the concierge told me that a package had been left for me. She was wrong. I wasn't expecting a package. I didn't know anyone in Japan, nor had I told anyone that I was coming here. So who could be sending me a package? But she held it out to me all the same. It was a standard brown envelope, about A4 in size, with no obvious markings, not even my name. I asked who'd left it, but the concierge told me that it was her colleague who had accepted the package, and so she didn't know. Needless to say, I shouldn't have taken it, but I've never been one to make good decisions. The package felt heavier than it looked, and I heard a metallic sound inside. I'd once watched a documentary about those postal bombs back in the 1980s. They'd been filled with all sorts of scrap metal or shrapnel, and probably made the same noise just before they'd gone off. Not that I'm one of those paranoid nutcases, but I do have an ex-wife. No, said a voice in my head. Sabrina wouldn't kill me via unmarked postal bomb. She'd use FedEx. Is everything all right, sir? Asked the concierge. I don't suppose you'd open this for me. Sir? Nope, I didn't think she would. Nor did I get the chance to convince her because another guest, some big fat American woman, barged me out of the way in order to check herself in. My God, I thought, she could have killed us all. I took the package back to my room on the second floor, sat at the desk, and after a few minutes of silent contemplation, I opened the package and looked inside. The metallic sound had been made by one of those puzzle boxes, the kind where you have to slide around the secret panels in order to unlock the contents. There was also a slip of paper inside. Its message had been written in cursive hand and read as follows. I know why you're here, Mr. Sharp. I know what you're looking for. Be at the Green Bird restaurant at 7 p.m. P.S. Bring the puzzle box. I rushed to the window and looked down at the street. I saw pedestrians all sorts going about their business, but nothing stood out as odd. Nobody looking up at my window, nobody in the adjacent building looking across into my room. I went to the door, checked the hallway. Nothing there either. Turning back to my room, nothing seemed out of place. I'd left the do not disturb sign on the door, and I knew the maid hadn't been in because the bed was still unmade from the morning. I checked the closet. Nothing appeared out of place. My single duffel bag still had everything that it should have. Nothing was missing. I rang down to reception to see if anyone had called the room today, but nobody had. I paced back and forth, staring at the open package. Who was this person? How did they know who I was? And more importantly, how did they know why I was here? And who the hell sends a puzzle box anyway? Not Sabrina, that was for sure. She hated puzzles. And besides, she'd have written the message in blood. The alarm clock showed just after 6:15 in the evening. I knew there was a flight back to London at 7:10. If I hurried, I could make the airport in time. No. I'd spent too long getting to this point. If I missed this opportunity now, I'd never get it back again. But I couldn't take any chances. I called down to the concierge and had them order me a taxi to the Green Bird restaurant. Then I grabbed the puzzle box and headed out. In the back of the taxi, I examined the puzzle box. It was made of black wood, hard and smooth to the touch. The design was an elaborate geometric mosaic and made my eyes hurt if I stared at it too long. I prodded the sides to find the secret panels, but I was too flustered to have any patience. How the hell had someone found me? Damn, I cursed, and the taxi driver shot me a look in the rearview mirror. I gave him a dirty look back. Problem? I said. Traffic's bad, he said meekly. And then he gives a reason which probably will have something to do with the plot later. I told him to step on it. We moved through the east side streets of Shinjuku, going deep into Kabukicho, the red light district. Lots of gambling, prostitution, and lowlives this side of town. The kind of people I deal with a little too much for my liking. Then again, that's how I'd met Sabrina. I turned my attention back to figuring out who was messing with me. It didn't make any sense. Nobody could have known I was coming to Japan. I'd planned everything meticulously, right down to the new alias I'd made. The taxi pulled up about 30 minutes after we'd left the hotel. The driver told me the Green Bird was about halfway down the bustling street to our left. I couldn't miss it. But I walked straight past the place without giving it a single glance. I wasn't about to just walk into some random restaurant without checking out the place first. I had no idea who or what I was dealing with, and if things went to hell like they often did, I needed to know I could get out quickly. There was an alleyway beside the restaurant. It had a fire escape going to the roof and a couple of dumpsters that I could smell all the way from the street. There was a homeless guy slumped against one of the dumpsters with a needle sticking out of his arm. Nobody seemed to care. I checked my watch. It was 5 to 7, 5 minutes before I'd been told to be here. Obviously, I was walking into a trap. But I'd come too far now. 3 years of searching, I couldn't back off now. So I took a breath and walked into the Green Bird, straight into a trap. The place was empty except for one table in the middle of the room. The woman sitting at it looked up at me as I entered. She was young and good-looking, with those long black lashes and sticky red lips. I should have run straight out of there. But 2 bruisers in cheap black suits stepped up behind me and blocked the entrance. The woman checked her watch and smiled her red lips. She motioned to the seat opposite her, and it wasn't really a question. I glanced at the fire door in the far right of the room. I might not have been as big as the bruisers behind me, but I was sure as hell faster. I thought about the homeless guy slumped against the dumpster. No doubt these 2 would trip over him if they tried to chase me. But I wanted answers, so I joined the woman at her table. "There is a story we tell children," she said, speaking in Japanese like she knew I could understand her, "about a troublesome tanuki who plagued an honest farmer for days on end. One day, the farmer laid a trap and caught the tanuki. 'Do not untie it,' he told his wife, 'before I come back from the market tonight.' But the farmer's wife was a kindly woman, and the tanuki's hopeless crying soon got to her. She took pity on the little creature, but no sooner did she untie it, did the tanuki kill her, chop her into pieces, and make a soup out of her. The tanuki then shape-shifted into the form of the farmer's wife, and when the farmer came home, the tanuki fed him the soup. The woman snapped her fingers, and from the kitchen came a waiter who put 2 bowls of steaming soup in front of us. The woman smiled at me. 'Go ahead,' she said. I glanced at the fire door again. 'That's a children's story?' I said, but my feet were dancing under the table. The woman ate a spoon of soup and licked her red lips. 'My name is Kyori Matsumoto, Yakuza Captain 18, head of the clan Matsumoto, and she who lays claim to the 4th Ward Shinjuku of the great city, Tokyo.' 'Oliver Sharp,' I said, spooning my own soup. 'Troublesome tanuki.' I couldn't tell whether that quip got to her because she had about the best poker face I'd ever seen. A flawless complexion like a perfect porcelain doll. She sat tall and upright, all her movements precise, as if choreographed well in advance. I couldn't help watching her red lips glide over her soup spoon. 'The puzzle box,' she said eventually. I took it out of my pocket and put it on the table, but I said nothing. I wanted her to do all the talking. 'The first puzzle boxes were made long ago in Hakone,' said Kyori Matsumoto. 'A safeguard for personal jewelry and keeping children's fingers from sewing needles. But as their complexity grew, the samurai and ancient warlords began using them to pass their secret messages. I received a similar puzzle box upon my ascendancy to Yakuza Captain.' 'Yeah, I didn't realize the Japanese mob was so liberal,' I said. Kyori Matsumoto fixed me with a look. It was a dangerous game to play, but I'd be damned if I let some woman keep the upper hand. I'd already come running here like a dog, but I could be a Rottweiler when I wanted to. 'It took me 5 weeks to solve that box,' she said, and in the corner of my eye I saw one of her bodyguards pull out a gun. 'You, Mr. Sharp, will have until I finish my soup.' I snorted. 'Nice try, love,' I thought, but I wasn't going to play her game, and nor did I have to. Her bodyguard wasn't going to shoot me while I was sitting so close to her, so I picked up my spoon and slurped my soup. The bodyguard snarled at me to show some respect, but the 18th captain of the Yakuza refused to be ruffled. I still had a clear path to the fire door, so I decided to test that cool exterior with a bit of shock treatment. I waited until she was down to a last spoonful, and then snapped up my own spoon and smashed it down on the puzzle box, shattering the damn thing and busting open its contents. 'Solved,' I said. Kyori Matsumoto didn't flinch. In fact, I got the impression that it'd take a bomb going off before she might yawn. She glanced at the broken puzzle box, dabbed her lips with her napkin, and turned to her bodyguard. 'Tell them to serve the fish.' The waiter served the next course, which I recognized instantly as fugu, or pufferfish. A single drop of fugu poison can kill an adult. Chefs have to undergo special training just to learn how to prepare it. Apparently that makes it a delicacy. Not that I'd ever tried it, seeing as how a single plate runs upwards of $250. Kyori Matsumoto slipped the first sliver between her glistening red lips, while I turned my attention to the puzzle box I'd smashed. Among the debris lay a fluffy, white rabbit's foot. The farmer had a neighbor, said Kyori Matsumoto, picking up her parable. A crafty rabbit who swore to avenge the wife's death. He befriended the tanuki and invited him one day to harvest grass for the winter. On the way back home, the rabbit set the tanuki's bundle of grass on fire, and when the tanuki asked what the crackling sound was, the rabbit said they were walking on the crackling mountain. When the flames burned the tanuki's back and he was in terrible pain, the crafty rabbit helpfully applied a lotion made of chili powder. The next week, the rabbit invited the wounded tanuki to go fishing. He built a wooden boat for himself and a clay boat for the tanuki. Naturally, it wasn't long before the clay boat began to sink into the lake, and when the tanuki called out to his friend for help, the rabbit only laughed and said, "Now the farmer's wife is avenged." The rabbit then hit the tanuki with his oar, and both the tanuki and the clay boat sank into the lake forever. The farmer was so grateful that he invited the rabbit to live with him, and they became firm friends. My God, I thought. I wanted her to do all the talking, but if this Yakuza captain kept speaking in parables, I mean, at least Sabrina would just call me a bastard and be done with it. "Tell me why I'm here," I said plainly. Kyori Matsumoto finished her fugu and placed her cutlery neatly on her empty plate. "I have enough tanukis on my farm, Mr. Sharp," she said. "What I need is a rabbit." "And how about what I need?" I said. "I never knew a farmer who could grow that." She gave a signal to the kitchen, and the waiter came and removed our plates, replacing them with a black basket of what I thought were plums. "These are my favorite," said Kyori, fingering the plump fruit. "Father took me to Ishikawa to harvest the first vintage, and I've never missed one since. I still remember how his eyes lit up when he talked about the incredible new fruit that he'd helped to produce. 'The fruits of our labor are sweetened by the sweat of our brow,' he used to say. 'And the ruby Roman grapes are sweet indeed. Each grape weighs over 20 grams and is at least 18% sugar, and that's only the regular class. The premium class, such as these, require each grape to be over 30 grams. "Grapes?" I said, astonished. Kyori Matsumoto plucked one of the heavy grapes. Kyori Matsumoto plucked one from the heavy bunch, holding it on a flat palm as she examined its perfection. I stared silently as her red lips softly caressed the hard round ball, a split second before her teeth pierced its flesh. A trickle of juice ran down her chin, and she smiled at me as she swallowed. "So you see, Mr. Sharp, the soil is rich in Shinjuku." Yeah, I thought, glancing back at the bodyguard who'd pulled the gun on me. But what's in the compost? "How did you know I was in Japan?" I asked. "I know everything that goes on in my ward." "How do you know what I'm looking for?" And then she makes this comment, which we still don't know, that convinces him. I clenched my jaw. I couldn't believe how poorly I could read her face. Surely she couldn't have known what I was looking for. She hadn't even named it explicitly. Then again, I don't suppose you would if you knew what it was. Either way, I should have run straight out of there, but like I said, I've never been one to make good decisions. "Okay," I said. "Wonderful," she said. And so the 18th captain of the Yakuza served me tea and grapes, and told me all about her twin sister, the 7th captain of the Yakuza, whom she wanted me to kill. "Mizuki was always a mischievous child," said Kyori. "Mizuki the Tanuki," my father used to call her. "Do you know she once broke into Principal Tanaka's office in order to change her end-of-year grades? She would have gotten away with it too had she not also been compelled to take some very indecent pictures of herself and upload them to his work computer before leaving. Pretty insidious, I said, sensing a kindred spirit in this sister. Pretty nothing, snapped Kyori Matsumoto. It brought disgrace to our family and dishonor to our name. It was the first time I'd seen any emotion from her. I glanced at her bodyguards, who looked equally stunned. But yes, she said, reeling herself back in like a viper. Like you, my father brushed it off as unchanneled potential. But I don't suppose you can understand how that made me feel, can you, Mr. Sharp? Naked, I imagine, I said. But how do a couple of 20-somethings become Yakuza captains anyway? My story is simple, she said, sipping her tea. My father died tragically. I ascended to captain in his place. I could have been wrong, but I was pretty sure I saw a smile behind that teacup. Naturally, this never sat well with Mizuki. Spoiled child that she is, she believed father would bequeath her the great honor of captaincy. But only I am firstborn, and only I have earned the right. How did Mizuki come to power? It's Principal Tanaka all over again, said Kyori. Mizuki did not accede to my authority as head of our clan, and 10 months after my ascension to captain, she abandoned our family and sought asylum with our rivals in Koto Ward. Now it seems that she has weaseled her way to the top. She who controls Koto controls the docks. The port of Tokyo is a major component in Yakuza operations, and already the Yakuza has suffered many setbacks due to Mizuki's lack of sense. Once again, she brings dishonor to my father's legacy and disgrace to our name. My superiors will not stand for war between the captains, but something must be done. There is a captain's meeting in 2 weeks. Mizuki must be dealt with before then. And this is roughly the end of chapter 1, as we've got it so far. So hopefully, guys, you have at least enjoyed that, and you get a sense of what this story is about. So we have this plot. Obviously, you can already see a few things that need to be just adjusted. This 10 months after my ascension is perhaps not quite right, because Mizuki says a little bit later on in this later scene that it was basically the day after, right? Let's go. Yeah, your bit's right. Where did we say it? We said it was. I think it was the day after. Basically, she said Mizuki. Right, and when Kyori ascended to captain, she took great pleasure in punishing me for it. 14 offenses did Kyori accuse me of the day after her ascension, said Mizuki. For each offense, another knuckle was cut. So that was literally the night afterwards, right? So Kyori Matsumoto, she kills her father to stop him from giving the younger sister the keys to the kingdom. Line edits for sure will fix that. I'm just saying they crop into the mind immediately when I'm reading back. But that's a good one to notice. So in fact, let me go back and put that in brackets. But okay, so guys, hopefully you have the gist of the story. And what I'm doing is, so we did try to write chapter 2 immediately and see where the story wanted to go, but then Kitty Wistful and me had a little bit of a discussion in the chat, and we came up with this great scene, at least this great moment of a future scene, and I just had to start writing that scene. So the scene goes like this. If you remember in chapter 1 where Kyori was talking about the tanuki, the troublesome tanuki, and the rabbit that then goes and takes vengeance, and then she says to Sharp, she says, "You, Mr. Sharp, you're going to be my rabbit, right? I need a rabbit to go after Mizuki the tanuki." So then Sharp, he has to work his way through the novel. He eventually meets this twin sister, and at some point they sit down to eat a meal together. It looks like it's going well. It looks like he's infiltrated the opposition. He's infiltrated the enemy's organization, and they sit down to eat, just like he has with the former sister, with the older sister. And what does Mizuki serve him? What's on the dish? Rabbit, right? Cooked rabbit. And she's basically just that lovely line. Just that the subtext there is beautiful, right? she's just so she's like, I know you work for my sister. I know what you're here to do, and you're dead meat, right? She's serving him rabbit. I thought that was just a wonderful bit of subtext. You can really imagine the line. So here we've got it a little bit here. Excellent, said Mizuki, and watching my reaction as the waiter put our plates in front of us, she smiled at me and said, I hope you like rabbit. It's something like that. Or he asks, okay, what are we having? And she says, rabbit. And it just implies everything that we need to know. So if we were going to use the, again, I say this every time because I do think it's a useful little book. Save the Cat writes a novel. The 15 beats of any story. Again, I'm not using this to write this novel, obviously. But if you are familiar with that book, then you'll know that this sort of moment where she serves him the rabbit and our protagonist just realizes, oh crap, he's in the soup. Nothing is going to play out like he thought. This is sort of the midpoint of the novel, the false defeat, or potentially even it could be the bit just before the dark night of the soul where things really have reached rock bottom. I think probably it's more like it feels like if we're talking about potentially having a big scene where all these Yakuza captains come together and they fight. They have their fighters, fight in the ring to settle their differences. I can imagine that Sharp, after being caught out, is thrown into the ring as sort of like like gladiators, right? Like the ancient gladiators. They throw him into the ring as this sort of traitor who's been found out. Obviously, Kyori doesn't say anything. She's disowned him. She's like, I don't know who that guy is, even though she hired him. But she can't break the rules. She can't be seen to have been breaking the rules of no inter-conflict. Yeah, thrown to the lions. So Mizuki captures him. She throws him into this pit against these, really good fighters. Maybe they have like a string of disloyal Yakuza, lower downs, the footmen, the soldiers of the Yakuza, all of those ones who over the past year have wronged their masters and betrayed the Yakuza or done just generally stupid things. They throw them into this ring, and they make them fight each other, and the winner gets his place back in his clan, something like that. And we can really go to town on this on that sort of a scene. That sounds like a very fun way to it sounds like a fun thing to build up to. This what's the word? This sort of epitome of, not epitome, a climax, right? This climax. We have Sharp in the middle of the ring. He's surrounded by all these other Yakuza guys, and he's like, oh crap, I've got to fight to survive. And then we are going to be rooting for how the hell is this guy who is not a fighter, right? I don't want to make this guy a Jack Reacher type of character. I want him to be the sharp tongue, the talker, but not the fighter. He can be smart, and he's going to have to figure out a way to get out of that situation. So I quite like that. That's starting to sound like we have a direction to go in. So we're going to have to lay little hints and tips and give him little things to collect along the way that are going to help him get out of that. It would be very cool if he can somehow talk his way out of fighting. Again, that's something that we've not seen before in a movie. Usually the protagonist somehow manages to fight his way out, which is terribly unbelievable. But yeah, okay, so that's basically where this is going. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Any comments, please do let me know. I'm really eager to hear feedback, and I'm eager to help you guys with your stuff, whatever my thoughts are worth. I've written a few books, but I'm happy to help out anyone. It was great to help out Tallulah a few days ago with her plot, and I think she's working on it behind the scenes at the moment, and is going to come back to us with her revised version, which we look forward to seeing. So, okay, tomorrow we're going to continue on with this scene of the twin sister Mizuki and Mr. Sharp. We're hopefully going to develop that backstory a little bit more and put it into the scene, into dialogue, and then we're going to hopefully end with that scene of her serving the rabbit. And then we've done this part of the novel. We've got this scene. And that's great. And then we can pick another scene in the novel to go ahead and start writing. Maybe that last scene, maybe let's start sketching out how that climax looks like. You know, there's no rules to writing the novel. You don't have to do it chapter by chapter. You can skip around. And I think actually that's probably the best way to do it. Write all the really interesting scenes, as many of them as you can. And then you're left with, say, you know, these scenes that don't quite, you know, marry up. And you can just write a few lines to get your character from one to the next. It just skips out all of the boring bits, right? So that's the approach I think I'm going to use with this novel now. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Again, whisper me things if you want. If you don't want them in the chat, you can whisper them over. I can take a look at them. And Conquest Publishing, thank you so much. I would definitely check out the website. What is the website, by the way? Is it just conquestpublishing.com? Something like that? Yeah, for every, you know, Mr. Shadow Paradox as well. Great to have you here. Thank you for participating in the chat. I am very intrigued as to what you're writing. This secret, this secret thing. Maybe in a few days you can, you might reveal a little bit more information. Emma Codolian, thank you for lurking and supporting. If you're still here, guys, 3 a.m. your time, must be getting on for 4 a.m. or just past 4 a.m. Can't thank you enough. Massive shout out as always to Coffee Quills for the raid. Yeah, post a link by all means. You know, let's, you know, we're all trying to help each other. So, okay, perfect. ConquestUniverse.com, guys. I'm going to check this out immediately. I would love to say more, but spoiling it would be bad. Yeah, sure. Only when you're ready, right? There's no pressure. This is a safe space. You know, I know, you know, as authors, we're a bit protective over our work, especially when it's in its infancy. That's why day one of this project was such a, I think it was a success simply because, you know, it is me just sort of bearing my soul. This is the first draft. Everyone can see how ugly the first draft can be. I don't mind showing that, you know, whatever. Oh, would love that. Please do, you know, put this channel. I'm definitely a co-conspirator with you guys. And, you know, happy to collaborate. What we really need to do as authors is just support each other. We need to, you know, we don't all have writers' rooms, but we do have these platforms where we can all help share information. You join in on my stream, I join in on your stream, whatever it is. We can maybe organize meetups as well. Plenty of stuff to do. And let's just make great stories, guys, right? Come on, we all want to move up to that next level. We want to, you know, get published all around the world. We want to make movies. We want to be entertaining. We want to entertain a whole bunch of people and become and improve our craft as storytellers. That's all that this is about. So yeah, massive thank you. Should we raid out? Should we try and find someone else to go and raid? Because, you know, there's at least what, 6 or 7 of us here. So I feel we should do that. Anyone got any suggestions of where we should go? Because I really don't. And I've got about 2 minutes before I need to head out the door and go to work. So yeah, will do. Thank you, Conquest Publishing. Absolutely. All right, let's... okay, if there are no suggestions for raid, I'm going to have to end without raiding out, which I really don't like doing. Let's see, maybe I can just quickly search for someone. 1 second. Let's see if we can support another writer, just make their day. You guys have made my day by raiding in. Coffee Quills, again, massive shout out. Thank you so much. Let's see, Twitch. Any suggestions for another channel? Another writer who's potentially struggling for views or anyone like that? Let's see, search for writing. Conquest Publishing, you're not live, are you, at the moment? No. Could have sent some your way. Or anyone else. 1 second. Let's see. Who is out there? Never? Alright. Okay, let's see here. Who is out there? Twitch. Come on. Twitch Writers Network. No, not online. Anyone out there? Oh, maybe there's another raid. Guys, what else do you watch on Twitch? I'm a massive chess fan. I don't know about you guys. I am such a chess fan. Oh, here we go. Usurper Kings. Okay. Let's raid there. Let's go and raid that. Okay, so how do I do this? Raid. Is this how we do it? This is like the first Usurper Kings. Okay, 1 second. Does anyone know how you do I have to type raid? How do you do this again? What's the thing? How to raid? You have to type in raid before or after? Gosh, there we go. Type /raid. Okay, that's that's why that didn't look right. Like this. See if this works. All right, we're going over to Usurper Kings, who I believe is like reading people's work and editing as they go. So, okay, like this and like that. Like this and like that. Okay, let's see if that works. All right. Let's see. Let's support another stream. Okay. Rate it now.
In the mornings. Well, you're getting heart. You're getting my little spark hearts because I love these little guys. Ooh, West Coast, fun coast. Oh yeah. The party coast. Here we go. I hope everyone is having a good time zone. 10 after 1. Yes, it is 10 after 1. You are correct. You are correct. All right. Okay. again, you know, when we